Welcome to the CEN show, where we present the voice of the community. The Community Education Network.com is a platform to aid the effort of self and collective improvement. Last Monday, which was the 21st, we had Conscious Corner, and the show was excellent. You could go to YouTube and see the show, or you could go to the website, communityeducationnetwork.com. The show with Professor Harmon Ra and historian Joe Hembrick. Excellent show from this Monday. And next week, they will have another excellent show speaking on education. And they have the guest, we're going to have a guest, Professor Harmon Ra's son, Amen Ra, that's his name, Amen. And he's a principal, and he's going to be the featured guest. And we hopefully we'll have other educators on there to have a great discussion. So I'm your host, Raski Maskani. Tonight's topic is the book, Natural Born Gangster, The Legend of Chris Bell. This discussion will be a series of multiple shows due to the extensive content of the author. Tonight's guest is the author, CJH Moore. His first show was with Professor Harmon Ra, which was their kickoff show. And it was an excellent show. Got a nice large response of viewers on YouTube, just as well as Joe Hembrick's first Know Thyself show. Both of those shows were big hitters, and we expect this one to be the same. And just in general, the book is awesome. I'm reading the book. It's an extensive read, but it's very interesting. And yeah, and I had many conversations lately with CJH Moore, and the conversations is just as good as the book. I'm looking forward to this evening. Okay. Good evening, brother Moore. What would you like to share about yourself before we start this discussion?
First of all, I would like to say thank you to the higher powers, and also thank you, Joe Hembrick, historian, and Professor Amin Ra, and you, Rashaki, for allowing me to be here this evening. Now, more about myself. I'm a writer, and I didn't know I was a writer until in my early 30s, but I've always had writing ability. I was writing at the age of 8 years old and didn't realize what I was doing. It was just something that came natural to me. My third grade teacher, we had a third and fourth grade combination class at Caldwell Street School. And the teacher gave us a title one time. Her name is Miss McCrae. She gave us a title to write from the title. And all of us wrote, but she read one story to the class. And that happened to be mine. She didn't tell the class who it was, but I knew it was mine and she knew it was mine. That gave me a lot of inspiration to keep on writing. So basically, I'm a poet by trade. I first started writing poetry, and then I wanted to write a novel one day, but I thought it was extremely difficult. But when I started writing it, I just started writing, learning along the way. You can call me a practicing writer, learning along the way, and I put it all together. And really, when I was younger, it was baseball. I lived in Compton, it was a baseball community. Everybody wanted to play some kind of sport. And the residents in Compton, they were really hung up on baseball. They loved it. So when I was 13, as Joe can attest to if he remember, I pitched a perfect game in San Diego. I had a major league arm at the age of 13. And everybody says, wow, he is a pitcher. But my first position I ever played was center field. And I wanted to be a center fielder, not a pitcher. But one day I threw the ball from center field to the screen, and Mr. Winbush, if you remember, Joe, Mr. Winbush came out and put me on his shoulders, and he put me on the mound. And I was wild as heck. I had no control. So that offseason, I worked on my control and trying to hit the handle on my garage from across the street. And I threw about maybe 1,000, 2,000 baseballs trying to get control, and I gained control. That's how I became successful in pitching. But I was a writer before then and didn't even realize it. Now, are there any more questions? Oh, and did I satisfy your question?
Well, it's just what you wanted to share. So I could get started because we have a lot of information that we could cover here. So the first question for you, what is the theme of this discussion for this evening?
The thing, it would be intelligence ends where spirituality begins. And also, the theme is the real art to follow is to follow humanity.
Okay, do you want to talk in detail about that, or you want to move on?
Well, we must realize that we live on this planet with other races of people. And we must learn how to get along. We must work together. And I know that's very hard to do with the recent developments since 400 years ago. And in terms of time, I would say that's recent, because what happened in history is that they cut the tail off time. We're not really in 2021. They cut the tail off time, and they started AB before Christ, BC, and the AD. So we must get that understanding straight up front. They cut the tail off time, and when they did that, they put a whole lot of systems into place, a lot of systems that we may not understand, and they put systems into place to have us to forget about or not think about our own heritage as Black people, because we had a rich heritage. And I always go to the reference point of the pyramids. The pyramids were built specifically for a reason, and I believe that the pyramids were built for protection of the earth, and that's my belief. And they were built so strongly until they still stand today. And they say around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. Okay, well, I think it's a little longer than that. But that is what I have to say about that.
Okay, so the next question is, what is the theme or argument of the book?
Okay, I believe that I gave that argument to you earlier. Do you have it there?
Okay, Did you want me to read it?
Yes, I want you to read it.
Okay. The real art of for humanity is to follow. Well, the real art for humanity to follow is to work together.
Now, I'll repeat that. The real art for humanity to follow is to work together. Yes, that is the argument in my book, and the argument is nothing more than a narrative thesis. And I discussed that all through the book. If those of you who read it didn't get that, the gist of it. See, because Chris Bell, what he did was he was from the ghetto of Chicago, the West Side. He was from the ghetto, but he got along with some very, very rich people. He got along with cartels. They had money. And what his desire was to be the richest man in the world. And this kid wanted to have more money than anybody else. And he eventually reached that goal, but he only reached that goal for a month because the stepfather, the character in the book, was the richest man in the world. He was an underground character.
Okay. So, what type of book is Natural Born Gangster, The Legend of Chris Bell? What is the type of book?
That's a very good question, Rashki. It is a verisimilitude and a Bill's Dung roman. Now, a verisimilitude, and I went over that in our initial meeting, is the appearance to be real. Now, that's a literary device. And of course, getting on literary devices right now, there's about 500 literary devices that a writer should be familiar with or know. Some of them a writer works with all the time. They're his best literary devices, but you should be familiar with all of them, and that's 500. And a Bill's Dung roman is simply the growth of a character in a novel. Chris Bell was born in the ghetto, and he raised himself out of the ghetto. Now, there was a anagnorisis through the book. Now, anagnorisis is knowing who you are, finding out who you are. He found out who he was through my deed, and then he found out it solidified who he was when he was on the ship, the vigilante ship, and he was playing games. Actually, they had a bowling alley on the ship, and they had a game room. And Chris Bell liked to play missile command. That worked on his skills, his reflexes. And he turned it over a lot of times. He spent a lot of time playing those games for his reflexes. And he also liked to bowl. And while he was bowling, he found his anagnorisis. Now, Chris Bell was a spiritual being. He was a spiritual child. And we need to understand what spirituality is. Spirituality is so much more than what we've been told by others, especially the powers that be. Spirituality is coincidental, it's lucky, it's successful, it's many different things. But we have to really try to connect with spirituality like we connect with the pyramids to understand it. We have to grow with it. See, spirituality was taught in Wasatch University. When the kid was just kindergarten age, we go to kindergarten, right? And we learn how to get along with others, and we learn our alphabets and ABCs. Now, these guys were actually learning about their spirituality. And Chris Bell was a star child. he was born under the star system Orion. And through the book, you can see how Orion was involved in what he was doing, everything he was doing. The stars would light up. And even later in the book, Orion sent him an orb, ORB, a magical orb that he could put in his pocket and use for his protection.
Okay, so there was a few things that we discussed and you wanted to bring to the light.
Mhm.
And these were some concepts. One of them was your arms are too short to box with God.
Oh,
That
great question.
quote. Yeah.
Great. Vanette Justine Curl, she wrote the play in 1977, Your Arms Are Too Short to Box with God. Now, let's look at that title alone, arms. She uses it as a pun. Arms can mean appendages that fall down by your side, your right arm and your left arm, and is also the arms of destruction. Now, what I think she really meant in that title is that your arms are too short to box with God. Your arms are too short to box with spirituality. If we were spiritual people and we are melanated beings, we could do a lot without the arms because you don't need them really. When you're spiritual, you receive a lot of information and you know where to go, you know what to do, you know what to say, and you know what to stay away from. So if you're spiritual, I think that's the best kind of success you can have. You don't have to go out and shoot somebody. All you have to do is gather the information and know what that information is used for. Now, that information has to be stored somewhere, don't it? See, and I said in my first talk that we have 5 brains. Okay, we have 5. We just don't have one brain. And I'll go over those again. We have the main brain. We have the subconscious mind. We have the heart brain, the stomach brain, and the skin brain. Our skin actually thinks, and I said this earlier, it actually thinks. So that's information that we are getting from the cosmos is stored in those brains.
That's pretty heavy there.
And also, I would like to say this, that our chakras are like shock absorbers. All that information, is so much power in the cosmos, till when that power comes through us and we ask for that power, our chakras absorb it so it won't blow us up.
Okay, so now you have mentioned Waset.
Yes.
Can you explain that? What is Waset?
Okay, Waset is the oldest university on the face of the planet. Historian Joe Hembert could explain it a lot more because that's his expertise. I'm the author, I'm writing about it. But
okay, so yeah, we need to make sure the audience know what Waset is. So
okay, well, I will explain from my side, okay, and let Joe explain it from his side. Now, Waset, now we have Emoteps and Grand Masters. I believe that Emotep had a library at Waset University where they taught Grand Masters to do what they can do. Now, mathematical, the Pythagorean theorem, and all that.
Regular.
All the math came from Kemet, in which the Greeks changed the name to Egypt. But all the math came from there. So we can't really say he is a father, somebody other than that was in the Kemetic system is a father of anything concerning math. because it was first done on the pyramids, and the pyramids is a mathematical marvel. Joe,
Okay,
would you
so-
like to add anything about WhatsApp?
Oh, sure. You're correct. That's where the theme Know Thyself came from, which was inscripted over the entrance. It later became called Grand Lodge of Luxor, and there was one more name. I can't think of it at the moment. But we must remember that Kemet or Egypt, came after some other civilizations that that had these abilities also. It is said that Egypt is Ethiopia's eldest daughter. You got to go to Ethiopia and on down to the beginning of the Nile, where the stuff came from. That's where mathematics, especially around Uganda, is a math haven, which is much further south by by European directions, and we know that the whole thing is upside down. Up is up and down is down as far as Egypt goes. What we consider north is really south, because the Nile flows from the south to the from down in that area to Egypt. So, but anyway, yeah, and men were taken in at age 7, and they usually stayed in there 40 years, mastering all the all the liberal arts, not just mathematics, but all the liberal arts. And if Moses, as Bible say the figure he was, if he'd have been a high priest, he would have had to have attended there, and also he would have had to been saying the admonitions of Ma'at 5 times a day, all his life, which is where the a Mosaic law, actually came from. So when he up to age, 87, he's gonna go up on Mount Sinai, which is in Africa, and come down with 10 of the 42 things he's been saying his whole life. Yeah, but that's all I have to say about Waset. It was actually the first recorded university in the world.
Okay, now I would like to add this about Ma'at. This is what I feel Ma'at is. Ma'at is a governmental system. Just like this is a democracy we live in, Ma'at is a governmental system that you can live in it and leave your door unlocked, and nobody will go in your house. You can leave your car unlocked on your door, and nobody will steal your car. You can leave something valuable laying around, and they won't pick it up. Why? Because it's not theirs. That is a modern system. And I'm working on a book that will explain all
that. Okay.
Well, Ma'at is actually, the meaning is truth, justice, and righteousness in the universe. And it's about balance, is what it is. So I had to research that because that's my daughter's name.
I know, Joe.
Okay.
And I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to bring it up, but we have different thoughts about it, but I believe it's a governmental system that was actually ran. She's a goddess, of course, just like ISIS was. But that governmental system, nobody stole. And in this system, surveillance and policing means a whole lot. You can make a lot of money doing that. In the modern system, they go broke.
And just leave you with a quote: when Egypt had been invaded and conquered by some foreigners, and a great King Pharaoh Pianki came up, to Egypt, to liberate them, from what they had been in, and when he left, he told the Pharaoh who had been on the throne, who had put back on the throne, he said to Ma'at be true. So apparently their swaying away from Ma'at caused them to suffer what they had been suffering in the first place.
No, I totally agree with that, man. I totally agree with it. See, but we need to understand and discuss our history much more. And the rich history is in Kemet, in Egypt.
Well,
It's so rich.
it's rich, and you got to remember the stuff before that. But you know, to read about Bianchi and all of those things, and a lot of other figures. You know, those who are listening need to get the 2-volume work by J.A. Rogers called The World's Great Men of Color. He goes through every continent and talks about all the people of color and the contributions that they made to those areas that they were living. That's it.
Okay, thanks a lot. Let's move on from there. Okay, here's another concept. 2 types of white people, Quakers and Pilgrims. Can you discuss that?
Yes, I will discuss that wholeheartedly. Now, Harriet Tubman ran the Underground Railroad, right? Without the Quakers, the railroad never would have existed. It couldn't have. There's no way. When you mesh logic and spirituality, that's a very powerful thing right there. That is so powerful that their arms are too short to box with God. Yeah. A Quaker did not believe in slavery. Now, they had to go along with it because of the military prowess of the Pilgrims. See, or else they would have downed them in some kind of way. There's 2 types of white people. There's Quakers and Pilgrims. And I know it's a whole lot of people out there that's not going to agree with it, but I reduced it. I reduced it to that.
Okay.
Now, furthermore, when I finished high school, I went to Snow College in Ephraim, Utah, and that's a Mormon state. And it's said that the Mormons don't like blacks. They're prejudiced. But one of my best friends was a Mormon. And I named my second son after him, Carl. His name was Carl Windward. I named him Carl. I would say that Carl was a Quaker. He had a Quaker mind. He didn't think like you a certain color and now you don't mean that much. We got along well. We did a lot together. We accomplished a lot together. We used to study together. And that's how I feel about Quakers and Pilgrims. As you know, 1607, it was a group of people that came over and settled Jamestown in this country. That's the first permanent colony, Jamestown. And in 1623, about 16 years later, some people came to Massachusetts, okay, around that area. And that is where your Thanksgiving story comes from Massachusetts, not from Jamestown, about Pocahontas and what happened to her. And she traveled back to Europe and she died because she couldn't get along with the people there.
You're on mute.
Okay. Thanks a lot there, Professor Rock.
Now I'm on mute and I'm clicking it and
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
We can hear you fine. Okay, so now one more concept we talked about. It says, and you said that I would like to be like James Brown and Muhammad Ali of literature.
Okay. I would like to be the James Brown and the Muhammad Ali of literature. Now, I remember when I was just a kid, around 14, 15 years old, when I heard the song, I'm black and I'm proud. Nobody was doing it at the time. James Brown did it, and the voices in the back weren't professional voices. They were the voices of kids. It sounded like they were screaming. That's where I got my first taste of black activism from him. I was just a kid. Now, I want to write, and I'd like to write to black people. I'd like to write. Now, I want to write to everybody, but what's going on in the black community, I believe that the novel, Natural Born Gangster, The Legend of Chris Bell, is a blueprint on how to improve. And Muhammad Ali, he was the people's champ. He even told you. He said, the people's champ, he fight for the people. So in literature, I wouldn't mind being called the Muhammad Ali or the James Brown of literature.
Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, before I get into a lot of, well, I have a lot written down from the book, and of course, we're gonna do more shows, but I just wanted to go around the panel, see if they had anything to ask you at this point.
Sure.
Or want to make a comment. So let's go to Sister Aziza. Question or comments thus far, Sister Aziza? Okay, she may have stepped away for a minute. Brother Doctor?
No, I don't have a question at this time. So.
Okay.
Great content, though. I like the fact that you mentioned some history and drop some knowledge about Kemet in Egypt.
Okay, that was Azizi. Azizi shows up to the show too. He's only 1 year, he about 16 months, something like that. But she'll tell us how old he is. But he's also here all the time. Okay, Brother Doctor? How old is he, Sister Aziza?
Hello.
How old is Azizi?
Oh, I'm sorry. He's 18 months.
18 months. Okay, I was off 2 months. All right. Brother Doctor.
Yeah, just make a comment something about I saw in the book. It was very interesting. I saw one of the paragraphs that said, it's talking about issues and said nobody wants to go back to Africa, but we can bring Africa to us by the images, pictures, and words. And, when we do that, we have problems, just like you further down in that chapter, down the paragraph. When we bring those images, pictures, and words, just like you said in your book there, that, the government becomes our worst nightmare because, you just got those few people who we don't even know, we never seen, that has, the power and the control, and they become our worst nightmares when we don't have a plan. And I think that's probably, that's deep to me, man, because we always saw this, but we really never have a plan. But we can bring those images and ideals and words, but we never have a plan after that. So it was just something, man, there in that chapter 8 that kind of just stuck with me, man. I like that. It just let me reverberate on that chapter, man. Yeah, that's all I said. Look.
All right, thanks a lot. Brother Mashinda, you want to comment about that?
Yeah, thanks, Doctor, for mentioning that. Nobody wants to go to Africa, but we can bring Africa to us. I believe Mahdi told that to Chris Bell in the book. And of course, that's what he was trying to do with the Black Wall Street. And their arms are too short to box with God. Yes, it can be done. It might be
let me follow up then on that, because you in the book it says, when you go in with the government, we want to be on the left. That's what we're hearing in the chapter. That be on the left, be with the people. Now, in the people's United States, so we're talking about the United States people or our people? Who should we decide we be on, man?
Okay, now when I was talking about the people, I was talking about our people. See, because Chris Bell was in the ghetto.
Okay.
That's all he knew. He didn't know
Okay.
anything else. He was born there, and he wanted to get out. So he knew that he had to help his people in order to help himself.
Okay, that clarifies it. Thanks. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to introduce Dr. Kamal Kamban and Dr. Mawia Kamban. They just joined the show, and this is a power couple that Professor Amin Ra would talk about in Black male and female relationships. And I just want to welcome them to the show and yeah, and have them just say a little something while they're here, and then we'll continue, because this is a treat for me having them here on the show. Brother Kamal.
Yes, greetings, Black Liberation family.
Black Liberation.
Thank you for the invitation. I've been following your work with your new platform, and I'm deeply grateful for the work that you're doing. So we'll just sit and listen and keep up the good work, brother.
Appreciate it. Dr. Mawia?
Yes, also, we're grateful that we were able to get in and to hear you and to see you again. There's such tremendous work that needs to be done, and it's good that like minds are coming together to share, especially those who are more elder, to bring the wisdom of the past to the future generations. So thank you.
Okay, I appreciate both of you being here. Such an honor to me. Okay, Calvin. So what
It's
we're about to do, so Brother Mashinda said he did, and then let me go to Professor Amin Ra. Professor Amin Ra, anything before we get started with some of the book information?
First of all, Ghani to everyone, and just happy to see all the names that are listening, and appreciating what's been said. If I understand it correctly, there's a lot of good questions and good dialogue going on. I just have a few questions just for a point of clarification. Why did you name your book Natural Born Gangster? I mean, you could have just said the story of Chris Bell, but why did you put that before you say Natural Born Gangster, then the story of Chris Bell?
Okay, that's very good. See, art has to be understood. And we can go a lifetime without understanding a piece of art. Chris Bell was naturally birthed by his mother, and he was born on the west side of Chicago, and he was born into a gang-ridden place. When he was young, very young, he was riding his big wheel, and he saw gang members harassing another gang member that was out of their territory. And he didn't like that. And he was also being harassed by his babysitter. See, he and his sister, they spent a lot of time together when he was young. He grew a great love for his sister, and he loved his mother greatly. He wanted to protect them. That was his primary motivation in becoming a ninja, because he wanted to be a ninja since he was 5 years old. And of course, he had a lot of abilities, and he just honed his abilities as he grew, and he concentrated on doing that. Now, he was natural, and he was born, and he was born into a gangster-ridden West Side. That's why I named the book that.
Okay. The question is, some people not some people, you know, what about, have, someone raised the issue that Natural Born Gangster and the story of Chris Bell, and you talk about how he wanted to be rich and the heroism could misinterpret it as a glorification of a gangster lifestyle. I mean, a lot of people are born in challenging neighborhoods, or you know, neighborhoods that was there while they were in the womb, and they came out in the womb, and it is what it is, the environment. And some of them did not participate. But what I'm trying to say is that, you know, how do you, if someone was to say that the story of Legend of Chris Bell is a sort of a glorification of being a gangster, how do you respond to that?
Okay. Now, well, that's a very good question, Amon-Ra. That's deep. I like it. The phrase of my book was, Chris said this, we're in the story, not for the glory. So that showed you where his mindset was right then. He wanted to help people. He knew that it only took so much money for him to do what he wanted to do. He wanted to help people. He was a star child. And he also said in the book, I'm going to help these people. And that's what he did.
The beautiful thing about literature and art is that's one of the mechanisms by which people could be free, even in captivity. There's some of the greatest artists comes out of institutions, prisons, jails, you know, because they just draw or they write their poetry, as you say, or write books and things of this nature. And then there are people that are able to, artists can say the moon is pink. You know, a poet can say that the sun is black. You know, I mean, that's the freedom of their and deep thinking. And in exchange with your novel of the Legend of Chris Bell, you know, what are some of the things you think young people can get from inspiration or interpretation? What is one of the meaningful things you think you write about the legend of Chris Bell that would help young people?
We are moving out of the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. Generation Y and X are our future. So what we must do is feed them knowledge, and knowledge is nothing more than information. And we don't get information from where we should. Harvard was established in 1636 and is an intelligent place, but it ends where spirituality begins. We have to teach our children how to be spiritual, understand spirituality. And that's what gives them power. The knowledge is okay, but see, when you have a gun and drugs backing you up and turning emoteps into junkies standing in front of a street corner, that's not very good. So what you got to do is you got to train them to not just say no to drugs, but to despise drugs, because drugs and alcohol are two of our worst enemies.
So that's one of the things that you, Chris's legend is telling young people to not just don't do drugs, but just despise them.
Yeah, despise them. They're treating them like they're poison, like they really are. Because what they do is they slow down your reaction time. You can't think, you can't do anything. You get addicted and want to do it again and again and again. And eventually, you're going to wither away.
Okay, so when you say get in touch with your spirituality or teach them, what are some of the things you suggest to do to teach spirituality other than church?
Wow, that's very good. I like it, Amon-Ra. See, church teaches religion, and religion and spirituality is like oil and water. It just won't mix. My favorite preacher or teacher, better yet, is Dr. Ray Hagan. You listen to him and he'll teach you something. Now, Stevie Wonder even said, religion ain't the way. Well, what did he mean? That's art. Religion ain't the way. Look at his lyrics. You see it's written right there. Spirituality is the way. Now, how do we get there? Okay, we get there through meditation, through discipline, and love, because love permeates the cosmos, and the cosmos is full of cosmic melanin. Okay, we are melanated beings. We can hook up if we knew how. See, but there's so many deterrents out there that's not allowing us to hook up. We have never been a people of destruction. I believe that Imhotep could have been the best general in the history of man. He could go around killing everybody. But he wasn't that way. He was a builder, and he wanted to connect with nature. See, that's what spirituality is. It's love.
Yeah, I see that.
So
Just a
Rob,
quick, yeah.
let me just say something. I'm approaching halfway in the book, and it's a book of reform and inspiration. I mean, it's a real good read where you take a negative and change it to something positive. And the way Chris Bell, his approach was so awesome in how he was converting people into disciplined and strong like warrior people. And it's just an awesome read. I encourage everybody to read it. So I think that when you have that natural born gangster out there, it's sort of like a hook for people that could be superficial and think that, oh, okay, this is all about a hard gangbanger. Yeah, this hard gangbanger was a reformer. And I mean, it's awesome. I'm reading it, it's a long read for me, but it's excellent. So I just wanted to add that.
Good.
Okay, and I wanted to say this before you ask your next question. You can't write in 300 pages about a legend. He has to have some substance and a background, where he came from, where he's going, what he loves, what he's afraid of. Because Chris Bell had fears, but he overcame them. He just ran right into them because he loved people. And his mama and his sister were the loves of his life. Now, he had other relationships, but that's what really motivated him to do what he did in the book.
Okay.
Hey, Ross Key, can I add something to that? What they were just saying, you guys were talking about what Professor Rod and everybody was just talking about. Hey, in the book, you had another little paragraph statement where you said you can go to church 7 days a week, read the Holy Bible, the Quran, or whatever Bible you read from cover to cover, and understand every word, parable, concept, until somebody in the community do something stupid. And that kind of touched me, because right above that, you said he's telling, everything, these guys do is self-defeating, and we can never build an infrastructure, because when you build and someone goes around and do something stupid, and it just brings us back down, man. It start all over every time. And I think Professor Rod was saying, for these kids, man, they got to understand that every time they go out and do something stupid, it just makes us start all over, man. And that's what hurts me, man. You know, you work, like you said, with the Bible. You read every day, practice every day, read it cover to cover, understand it. Then when someone goes out and do something stupid, man, it just, wow, man, I did all this work for nothing. And that in that chapter was, I think chapter 20 something. But that was kind of, I saw that role. I kind of like that too, man. It tells the story right now, man.
So you must have a book, brother doctor. Do you have a book before you?
I have, Roski sent me some stuff on it, and I was, just going through, the chapters and books, and I don't know why some of this stuff was just like it was in big letters, bold, man. Some of these, these, and it was reaching out to me, man.
Okay, as a writer, I would like to explain. I'm talking about spirituality, and Chris Bell was a spiritual being, but I wrote that book in the spirit because I'm gonna tell you why. I didn't know what I was doing until it crystallized. It came to life. And all the quotes in there, of course, that's original. And I do some quotes from other authors, but most of that's original in there. And you know where that came from? The cosmos.
You on mute, Rasaki.
Yeah, I got to get used to turn. I always turn the mute on when I'm not talking, so I want to get used to doing that, and I got to remember to turn it back off. So what I want to do, I mean, it was many interesting concepts and quotes in here, and I want to just start off. I'm gonna just go through some of them, and we'll go as far as we can go, and then anybody has a comment or question, you could use the raise your hand feature, and that's right at the bottom of reactions. And you hit reactions, and you'll see the raise your hand feature, and you can raise your hand and I'll come to you. Okay, so let me go with the first one. I started taking notes from the book. I'm gonna go with the first one. I want Brother Moore to respond to it. Okay, here's the first one. Many can learn to repeat something from memory, but few can create that to be memorized.
Okay. You know, a writer has to be creative, right? Because if you write like everybody else, of course, it can become boring. Now, what I really wanted to say is Chris Bell was a leader. He did things that people wanted to learn and follow. He was just that way. I mean, he showed no fear. He just did what it was to be done in order to accomplish his dreams. Now, notice that his love for his mother and sister motivated him throughout the book.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome. Okay, here's the next one. Your feet and hands are little power. The ultimate power is in your mind.
I wrote that. Yes, I wrote it. Yeah, I'm glad that you did bring that up because there are little power. Now, I live in a community. I grew up in Compton, okay? And everybody, mostly everybody that thought they were somebody wanted to fight with their feet and hands, okay? But if you would use the term discretion is the better part of valor and think, you wouldn't have to fight as much. Because what you gonna do? Somebody's gonna get hurt, somebody's going to the hospital, it's gonna cost you money. And the last time I checked, certain communities didn't have very much money because we don't have printing presses in our garages. And I believe the printing press is somewhere in somebody's garage. We can print that, they can print that fiat currency whenever they want. Okay, yeah. They have the formulas to do it, but they can do it whenever they want. Who's going to stop it? Okay, so did that answer your question?
Well, yeah, I mean, these are interesting points that you were making in the book to me. Okay, understanding if you know why, then you have the ultimate power.
That's right. Information. See, that's what I was getting at. See, information is all around us. Didn't you know that the sun was condensed sunlight? And didn't you know that all the stars in the sky, they're nothing but suns? You can't see the planets because there's no light there. That's so much information that we can get that's coming to us. But some of us have shields, the shields of religion to knock it off. And when we should be receiving it, that information is so important to us as a people. That's how the pyramids were built with information.
Okay, because see, I always say that if you understand, it causes less, you know, it causes you less to be upset when you have, like, some people have some experiences and they make a judgment without understanding, and they can get upset and what people say, pissed off. But when you have understanding, it lessens that anxiety. I thought that was really good. Okay,
Well,
I have a colleague of mine that just joined, Miss Moore, and I just want to acknowledge her. I'm glad she came aboard this evening. And Miss Moore, if you have a question or a comment, you can go to the reactions and raise your hand, and you can say a little something, Miss Moore.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Moore. And hey, Amira.
How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm sorry for my lateness.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so let's go to the next one, and then I'm gonna go ahead and ask for some comments and questions. I'm gonna go around again and after a few more. Okay, the next one is, if you knew the motives of a person, you can control their decisions.
again, I wrote that. Okay, yeah, I wrote it. The motive. What motivates somebody to do something? If somebody wanted to rob a liquor store, what would motivate them? Money. That's all they're gonna get, or some consumer items. That's all they're gonna get. They're not thinking about the consequence of going to jail or getting shot. So if you know their motive, and then you can control the outcome. Chris Bell knew the motives of some of the most powerful men in the world, and he used it to his advantage, not to take from them, but to add his abilities with theirs.
Okay. All right. Okay, the next one is sex, romance, enthusiasm, desire, faith, hope, love. These 7 emotions are what drive people.
Very good. I learned that a long time ago in the 80s. It's from a book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. He introduced that concept to me: desire, faith, love, sex, romance, enthusiasm, hope. If we studied and went by and even followed these 7 emotions, we'd be much better off. But for the 7 emotions, there's also the negative emotions, the other side. So I didn't mention the negative emotions until later on in the book, okay? But yes, the 7 emotions are jewels that we should think about, and we should practice, and we should live by.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around the panel again and see if we have some questions so far or some comments. Okay, I'm gonna start with Brother Kamal and Sister Mawia. No? Okay. Let's go back to Brother Joe. Brother Joe?
You have anything?
No.
Okay, we don't have any questions. So just
Okay,
listening.
all right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Brother Joe?
Uh, no questions or comments at this time. Just some things, a couple regarding what, Chris Bell did in the book. Once he got the gangs united, I believe I mentioned him before when he was on our show about the starting of the banks and taking the homeless off the street, renovating abandoned buildings and, vacant lots, turning them into gardens to grow food and for kids to play, and using the elderly as, lookouts for the powers that be that want to come into the community and spread drugs and guns and what have you. That was the best part of the book. I like that kind of stuff because I think that's something that we can do, right here, right now. There's plenty of buildings around. There's plenty of vacant lots around, and we have the expertise to grow food. Actually, I'm doing that myself right now in my own backyard. So the stuff in these stores, these fast food places was, killing our health, kind of deteriorating us, eating all that crap. Anyway, that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that there are many Chris Bells in the Black neighborhoods, but they have to be motivated to do what they do. Chris Bell, he took over the West Side, as I stated in my initial talk. Lord Eyes was the leader of the West Side, but he gave that responsibility over to Chris Bell. And he took over 212 gangsters and turned them into warriors and turned them into erudite people, period. Yeah, there was no mess going around on Chris Bell's watch because he fought some of the most dangerous gangsters in Chicago, maybe on the planet, and he won. He won these fights because of his passion. And when he won them and other people saw him beat these big, strong guys that were stronger than him, they said, this guy must have something. And when he met Mahdi, he transformed him into a missile, a guided missile. But he had to learn a lot on his own. He wasn't going to learn everything for everybody else. He had to experience it, have empirical experience to do the things he did.
Okay, excellent. All right. So far, Ms. Moore, question, comment?
Oh, I'm just listening. I didn't get a chance to read the book, so I'm just listening. I will read it though.
All right. If you have anything, a question or a comment, you can always just raise your hand. Sister Aziza?
No, I don't have a question or a comment at this time.
Okay. Okay, let me go back to some of the quotes in the book and the concepts. There's some books.
You forgot me, brother.
Okay, well, go ahead, brother doctor.
Yeah, and I just had one question just to get his opinion on some of the things you just said. You mentioned a few words. You mentioned emotions, motivation, and you just said experiences, and I always say choices. Chris is the issue. What would be the number one factor? I would say, like in making a decision, would it be somebody's choices or options they have going left or right, their motivation, the emotional the person had, or their experience? All right,
Okay.
can you put those in order? Which one would come first, second, third, and fourth?
Sometimes you wouldn't have a choice.
Uh-huh.
You don't have a choice. Have you ever heard anybody say, I don't have a choice? See, Chris Bell, what he did was he did what he believed in. And you can't forget that he's a star child. So a lot of information is coming from him that's not coming from his local school. A lot of information. So he did what he believed in. And that will wipe out anything else. I believe this, and he was moral. He was a moral character. The reason he was a moral character is because he read Aesop's fables. Now that comes later. Oh no, I told you that in the description of the book. See, Aesop's fables, they are so pure and so moving that if you believed in it and followed what he was saying, that you can't go wrong. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, a little. So you said he had no choice. It was something that he believed in.
Yeah.
So it was nothing that motivating. It wasn't emotional. So it was something that, so it had to be kind of from experience, something that he experienced that he believed in.
Well, he was motivated. He was motivated to protect his mother and his sister first. He was motivated because of all the danger around him. He thought it would eventually get to them because there were still drive-by shootings. In that book, they shot up a McDonald's one time with him in it. That's what started or ignited the war between them, between the black disciples and the vice lords, because they shot up a McDonald's, and they were probably trying to kill him, okay, but they didn't get a chance to. So what happened was that he got his troops together and they had a war, and 500 disciples killed themselves by friendly fire. Did you get to that part in the book?
I saw the McDonald's part. Remember the McDonald's part? Yeah, they got that. Yeah.
Okay, so he was motivated. That motivated me. A lot of things that was happening in his hometown where he grew up motivated him. He was motivated from all sorts, all around him. He just wanted to see changes made. He wanted the people on the west side in the ghetto, which were predominantly, mostly, or totally black, to stop doing what they were doing, killing each other over unowned land. I know they were making money, but he said we can make money another way. And he eventually made that money another way. He was responsible for all this, and he shared his wealth. He wasn't greedy. He didn't take it and go somewhere. In the book, the stepfather offered him to take care of his money, be his financial advisor, and he had earned over $15 million. The stepfather had stepchildren, and one of them was Ava. She was a ballerina. She was a high-paid escort, okay? She fell in love with Chris Bell. And Chris Bell rose to love with her. See, there's a difference between falling in love and rising in love.
Oh, very interesting that you say that. Can I, that's very interesting.
See,
Because
he rose.
yeah.
See, when you rise to love, you don't let some other appendage on your body take your mind. You think about what you're doing. So he said, no, I'm not going on an island like you suggest and live out my life forever and ever being happy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to protect my mother and sister and the people that are in my community. I want to build this Black Wall Street and I want to see it work.
Excellent. Okay, you mentioned a couple of books, War and Peace, Think and Grow Rich, and The Art of War. Can you talk about those three books briefly?
Okay, The Art of War, Sun Tzu. See, Chris knew that he had to go to war. See, there is a Cold War and there's a hot war. And there's a cyber war. There's all kind of wars going on. See, he had a war against poverty and ignorance. It's really ignorance. He didn't want his people to be ignorant. So he set out to wage a war against ignorance. Okay. So he felt as though he was always reading. He read most of his time when he wasn't doing anything else. He couldn't go to the normal schools and leap from grade to grade. He couldn't do that because it was too much going on in the ghetto at the time. Chris Bell, he wanted change. He just wanted change. You know, we talk about change. When Obama ran for president the first time he ran, he said change, right? He ran on the platform of change, which was good. We needed a Black president. But Chris Bell was in the midst of all this. He had to live there. He didn't sleep at the Waldorf Astoria. He didn't sleep in some penthouse. He slept on the floor for a long time because his mother couldn't afford a bed. And he slept with his sister. So he fought from the inside out. See, most people that leave the ghetto, they don't want to go back. But Chris Bell was in the ghetto and he didn't want to leave it. He wanted to change it.
Okay, so what about the other two books, War and Peace and Think
Okay.
and Grow Rich?
Now, Think and Grow Rich, thank you very much. Think and Grow Rich, the 7 major positive emotions I got from that, Napoleon Hill. And back in the 70s, I read that book until the cover came off of it. Okay, it talked about sex transmutation, the 7 major positive emotions. There's no such thing as defeat. No, there's no such thing as failure, only temporary defeat. See, Think and Grow Rich sold a whole lot of copies. It sold about 100 million copies. That was a very popular book, but it wasn't a textbook. Okay. Educated people love textbooks. I had to read a whole lot of them. Okay. For one is Copy, C-O-P-I, logic book, Irving M. Copy. I had to read that book for a grade. And I read it and I still read it to this day. Introduction to Logic. Because logic and spirituality go well together. They mesh so well together. Okay. So you can figure out a lot of things just by being logical. And with the spirituality, you getting information anyway. So you're ahead of the game. Now, the other book was what?
War and Peace.
Oh, War and Peace. Okay, that is a very popular book. A lot of people read it. It wasn't any required reading for me, but Chris Bell wanted peace, but they gave him war. He was born in a war-torn section of Chicago. So my D required him, I asked him to read it. So he read it to be more familiar with war and peace. Now, Joe, are you still there? Okay. I see you, Professor Amin-Ra.
Yeah, I'm always there.
Okay, so let me move to the next one. I think this is a good one for everybody, but let me go to it. It says the principles of the Bible and the Quran will forever be real, but the characters and the timing are questionable.
Okay, as I told you, the tell of time was cut off. They cut off the tell of time and changed it into before Christ and after death. It was cut off. We're not really in 2021. The number should be much later than that. So the timing, they did that. They cut off the tell of time. Now, I'm talking about the powers that be. Constantine was a monster. He was a monster. And the fake pharaohs that came onto the throne later on, when it was declining, they were fake. They couldn't reach spirituality if you gave them $1 million because they didn't have the components in their body to do so. They didn't care about the cosmos. What they cared about is land. We want this land. They couldn't build a pyramid in 1 million lifetimes. See, now that makes sense to me. See, the pharaohs built the pyramids. They had the pyramids built, but all these people were trained to do what they did. And we all need to understand the phenomenal talent it took to build only not the Great Pyramids on the Giza Plateau, but all around the world. So this tells you that these guys didn't stay in one place. They were everywhere. Now, you had another question, didn't you? Another part of it?
No, that was it. It's just you know, the Bible and the Quran are
Okay.
you know, they're the major two religions, I think, in the world.
Yes.
You know, you got Buddhism and you know a few other ones, but basically you kind of saying that, you know, this may be a fable.
Hey, okay.
You know,
I don't.
you know, some concepts are
Yeah. I don't,
are universal and logical, but you know, to take it for face value now, that could be kind of, you know, that's the way I took that quote.
very
Like,
good.
man, go ahead.
Very good. I don't believe that all the characters in the Bible were real characters. Okay. The Greeks were the best writers on the planet. Now, they couldn't go spiritual, but they could write. Okay. Homer and his crew, and they could write like you wouldn't believe. Now, and they could inject or interject characters into their writings. Now, Shakespeare was a bad boy too, but those Greeks were good. Now, we can't read Greek, but if it's most of us, if it's transformed into English, we would see that they had a lot of talent and they put a lot of literary devices in their work and made it work. Now, read that quote again. Read what I said again.
It says the principles of the Bible and Quran will forever be real, but the characters and the timing are questionable.
Okay, now I spoke about the characters. Now the principles, of course. See, you can mix lies with the truth or fiction with the truth. It's called a verisimilitude. They knew all this. They knew how to write and they knew the literary devices. In fact, that's where they came from. If you study the literary devices, they'll tell you 90% of them came from the Greeks. So they invented this. The principles, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. All that will forever be true, because if you kill somebody, somebody can kill you. If you stole from somebody, somebody could steal from you. If you did wrong to somebody, they could do it to you. It's called the law of attraction. And our ancestors understood this very well. That's why they were hooked up with nature, because nature is the truth.
Okay, so now I'm gonna segue to the panel again. Brother Mashinda, question, comment for Brother Moore.
No, I'm just listening. I've been off and on, man, busy, but thank you for coming and appreciate, learning. And I haven't purchased the book. That's something that's going to be on my list. Interesting conversations. Thank you.
I want to sit down.
Sister
Somebody
Aziza,
just-
question, comment?
Oh, I didn't know I was on, not on mute. No, I don't have a question at this time. I'm sorry.
Okay. Professor Amin Ra?
Just a couple. The many of the scriptures talk about heroism and principles and when you talk about the Quran and you talk about the Bible as not being on timely, but some of the principles and the ethics and the morals are correct in many ways. But those books, as you say, they got those principles and those morals from somewhere else. That's why the word Bible means collection of books. Holy Bible means spiritual, and that's why they call it the Holy Bible, Holy Quran, because they're not, they're stories of heroism and spirituality of the cosmos from their perspective. My question to you is, because when you say Chris Bell was a star spiritual child, could you explain that? What you're saying, that he was blessed with in-depth spirituality? It wasn't something that he learned. He was a star child, a spiritual child. How did you mean that?
Okay, he was born under the constellation of Orion. And the pyramids were built in conformity to Orion's belt. Now, of course, we were created by someone, and someone had to blow the breath of life into our body to become a living soul. Now, that's getting into religion, but Chris Bell was born under the constellation Orion. You see, and the Kemites, they really worship and they had something to do with Orion, because they built the pyramids in conformity to the belt, the 3 stars in the belt of Orion. So a star child, after he won several of his fights, the stars were on his side, because the characters would lay some pine on their back and look up in the sky and see stars light up. Now, you think that's a joke? Yeah, that's spirituality. That can happen. And what we need to do is understand. See, I want us to understand our spirituality, our capabilities as melanated beings. We are so blessed to be melanated, and other folks want to make it seem like we're not blessed. But we are blessed. All we have to do is use it because our bodies are full of it and the cosmos are full of it. And the sun is nothing but condensed melanin. It all goes back to that. And I believe this, all things go back to Kemet. Even the Holy Bible was written on the concepts of Kemet, the book coming forth by day and night. Look, you got to understand that in the medieval times, okay, and they call it the Dark Ages, Europeans thought the earth was flat. And we were sailing around the world building pyramids. Why we do that? How we do that? Spirituality. But they don't teach spirituality. And they tried to subdue spirituality too. And I can tell you how. 1629, the Salem witch trials in Massachusetts. Black people were showing spiritual prowess. What they do? Hang them. We don't want that around here. The reason they hung them is because they didn't understand it and they didn't want it to be in their system. But I'm sorry, this is the age of the age of Aquarius. We're leaving the age of Pisces. We need to know things. We need to know ourselves. Know thyself. We do need to. And if we don't know ourselves, and then we can't reach where we need to be as a people.
The other question is, you had mentioned about Africa. You don't have to go to Africa, but Africa can come to us or something. How did that go? And you mentioned that
Okay.
you don't have to.
Where Shaki read that quote, he read that quote from the book. But yes, you know what I heard one time, and this was a while ago. And of course, everything that I put in my book, I experienced it somewhere along the line. Smokey Robinson said one time he don't want to go back to Africa. Okay, but he's a hell of a singer. I listen to him all the time. He doesn't want to go back to Africa. Okay, how do we bring Africa back to us? Spirituality. We've got to think African. We can't think European. That's how you do it. But you have to be educated. When you read their books, their materials, and get their degrees, you ain't gonna think African because they don't write about Africa and spirituality. You got
well put. Well put.
Thank you.
And you can't free yourself if you don't know yourself.
What is the kryptonite to the American system or the European thought is Black people, African people, people of color, is to be constructive.
Okay, now this is two words that I want everybody to hear in the Black community and around the world. Two words: anathematize and proselytize. Now, I went to law school for a year. Okay, I didn't graduate, but I sure didn't want to. I didn't have the support system. I believe I mentioned that in my first talk. But they taught us to define your own words. Don't go out by Webster and Merriam. Define your own words. Okay, anathematize. That means to force you to do something you don't want to do. And with a gun at your head, you're going to do what they say if you don't want to die. And proselytize. Look, the native Indians used to walk around naked for a reason, to get that sunlight, okay? And the Europeans called them savages because they didn't wear clothes. But they eventually started wearing clothes, didn't they? That's proselytization. Do convert to somebody else's way of thinking or religion. Okay, fellas.
Okay, so now let's go to another one. You have in your brain a pineal gland. This gland produces melanin. And from this, melatonin and serotonin is produced, which darkens your skin.
Yes, and I mentioned that in my first talk. The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. All right, you heard that a lot of times. Our ancestors were on to something, but even our grandparents, our parents were on to something, but they couldn't quite grasp it. They knew logic. They had common sense. But someone would say, I can't do that because I'm not educated. Okay. I can't do that because I don't know this or that, but they knew how to count and they knew how to read. Education is so important. We got to learn how to count and we got to learn how to read. Everything else is icing on the cake. Have you ever talked to somebody that can't read? You ever talk to somebody that can't count? They're supposed to, that's their duty to teach us that. But everything else is icing on the cake. Now, I want you to ask that question again.
The same question?
Yeah,
Or
right.
it was a quote.
Yeah, the same quote.
It says, you have in your brain a pineal gland. This gland produces melanin, and from this, melatonin and serotonin is produced.
Okay, I did talk about this. Melanin, they would tell you that the pineal gland does not secrete the pigment melanin. They'll tell you that. They'll tell you that it only secretes the hormone serotonin and melanin. Do you still believe that Christopher Columbus discovered America? Now, look. Pineal gland secretes melanin. It's called neuromelanin. There's a such thing as cosmic melanin. These substances can combine and work well together. See, but you have a lot of atoms and what's running around in atoms, that's what make up everything. I said that the pineal gland can see inside of the nucleus of an atom. So what does atoms do? They make up everything, and you can understand from that basis, from that fundamental basis, that archetypal basis, right there, you can understand what's going on, okay? So you understand things. So it always goes back to understanding what is going on around me. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Okay, pineal gland. And also, this is what I believe, gentlemen, metaphysically. And the listeners out there, that melanin flows into your bloodstream. And we all know that we have iron in our blood, right? It's called alchemy. And our ancestors had the ability to change the iron into gold. We don't do it now because we don't think that way. We don't think spiritually, but they did have that ability.
Yeah, I just, I would want to know how they did some concrete examples of how they got to that point. And I know that's a great feat coming from the mindset of poverty and under assault constantly. Is difficult for people to rise above their condition. But I'm a advocate of going further and thinking, out of the box. So let me go to this one and then I'm gonna go back to the panel. Okay, it says blacks in high positions or with good jobs are questionable and ghetto blacks are wannabes. Explain that.
Did I write that?
Yes, you did. I want to know what you meant.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the term Oreo cookie?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the term house Negro?
Yes.
I mean, Malcolm X talked about the house Negro and the field Negro. Okay. Now, the educated Negro can be an Oreo cookie. And I'm not saying that Oreo cookies are bad or they don't taste good, but they tend to forget and don't want to teach. And they have all these skills where they came from and what they're supposed to be doing in their own communities. Because the last time I checked, whenever we moved into the community, when I moved into Compton back in '56, I played with white kids. And you know what? The next year, it wasn't any. So my point is, when we move in, they move out. And I know that all white people don't like that, but it's called white flight. So what do we have to do? We have to train ourselves. They're not going to train us the way we should be trained. Their best training in the world can't train us the way we should be trained. We should be trained by our own ancestors, not theirs.
So what about the ghetto blacks or wannabes?
Okay. Thank you, Rashaki. The ghetto blacks are a combination of the field Negro and the house Negro, because some ghetto blacks make money by selling drugs to other ghetto blacks. How else they gonna make money? That's the only way they can make it. Or basically, do they have a job? Do they have any skills? Do they fill out resumes? Can they read? Okay, so now the ghetto blacks are trained to be ghetto dwellers. They probably will never leave the ghetto because they're comfortable and they grovel every day. They're trying to make ends meet, ask somebody else for $1 or a cigarette. Okay, that have it, those that have it, because they don't have these things. Now, the Oreo cookie, don't even know he's an Oreo cookie. A lot of them don't even know it. You know why? Because I was an Oreo cookie once. I'm pointing their finger at me. I mean, look, if I make $1 million, if I would have made $1 million playing ball, you know what I would have done? Continued being an Oreo cookie.
Can you give us a specific on Oreo cookie? What is an Oreo cookie in your opinion?
In my opinion, an educated Black that stays out of the ghetto and don't want to help those poor people. And they come up with the excuses that they don't want to be helped, and they're sick in the head and all that. Okay, but some of them do. Some of them want to be helped. That is my definition of an Oreo cookie. An educated Black that turns their back on his people.
And sometimes it's unconscious. They just
Yeah.
yes, it's unconscious. Okay.
They want to maintain like a house Negro. They want to maintain their position. So they ain't gonna do anything to hurt that. See, we're
Okay.
talking about the book now, okay? We're talking
Yeah.
about the book and why I
So
wrote
let-
the book.
Okay, so now I want to do one more, then I'm gonna go back to the panel, see if they
Okay.
got anything for us. Now, this is, the last quote. Matter of fact, this is one more before I skip to after I read about 40 something pages. Well, matter of fact, 39 pages, and I start getting into the meat of the book. So it's one more. It says, there are those who are above the law, and there are those who are below the law, and there are those who follow the law.
Okay,
So you describe that.
very good. A law-abiding citizen won't go
Well,
to
I'm saying
jail.
okay, the ones that are above, who's above the law?
Who's above the law?
Yes.
People with money that's not your color.
Can you be more specific?
Europeans with money.
Okay. And then there's those who's below the law.
Those people that will take and kill and do anything they can to make a dollar.
And who describes that?
Who's that?
Who would be a description of that we could, attach that concept to?
Okay. A drive-by.
So you
Just
saying
killing somebody who drive by and kill somebody, a young baby, kill somebody because they want to shoot somebody else. They're below the law. They don't care.
So the common criminal.
Okay, yeah. I'm thinking more than the criminals. See, you have different levels of criminals.
Okay.
You have white collar, blue collar, and below the law crime.
All right. So and then you got those who follow the law. Would that be somebody like you?
No, it'd be somebody like you. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna follow the law because a law has a long arm. No matter where you go, you ever heard that term? They're gonna snatch you. And what Caesar's render to Caesar. Follow the law. It's not hurting you to follow the law.
Yeah, well, I know people that's like us. They would like for us to break the law so they can get us.
Well, yeah, be below the law. You'll break it, and the long arm of the law will eventually snatch you.
Okay. Well, let me go to the panel. Let's start with Ms. Moore. Ms. Moore, question, comment? She might be busy doing something else at the moment. Brother Doctor?
Not good info. I'd like to touch more on that law stuff, man, but it'll take a while. I'm going to say that for the next show. Following the law, because we know how these laws are written and who for. So, it's hard to follow a law when it can be changed anytime, So really, man, are there really laws if laws will keep changing? So we can talk about that another time, man.
Okay. Sister Aziza?
No, I don't have any questions at this time.
Brother Joe?
I was trying to get back into participation screen. I can't see nobody but the person speaking. So no, but no, the law, I don't have any comment on that.
Any question?
No, I've, like I said, I've read the book in its entirety. So, and Brother Moore talks about these principles all the time. So, no.
Okay. All right, Professor Ra.
Yeah, I just want to say it's been fantastic. And I like the way you make the transformation of a novel into reality and to really a historical novel, much like Roots. It's a novel, but it has a lot of consciousness in it and a lot of reality in it, as you explained it. And I just love the show tonight. And brother, I just want to thank you again for the beautiful, in-depth, deep thinking and creativity that you have put into the book and put into this discussion. Sante Sana.
Thank you, Professor Amon-Ra. Thank you very much.
So I have another one, and I think after this one we could kind of end it and go to the next when you come on next time, pick up from where we left off. But I had to get this is going deeper into the book, and I want you to respond to this one on, and this is on page 87. This is when it start getting a little deeper into the crux of the book. The mind is more powerful than color and money that can affect or influence a state of mind. But the thrust I kind of wrote this of force, the thrust of force.
Thrust, this is probably thrust.
Probably okay. Okay, so the thrust of force and the potential of loss of love were formidable arts of war. You want me to
Okay.
read it again?
Oh, and well, you can a little later, but I
Okay,
believe
go
I
ahead.
understand some of it. If you lost somebody, you want to get revenge, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's sort of like you want to strike. Like if somebody strike you and you lost somebody, then you want to that immediate reaction is to go and get them.
Why did they fight the Trojan War and build a Trojan horse? Loss of love. And that's why the whole thing was fought. And we fight over many different things and wars around the world, and world wars, period, were fought for specific reasons. We may not know exactly what they were. We can conjecture and theorize, but do we really know why people are fighting? I know why they fought the Native Indians for land. I know this. And then when the Native Indians finally found out their agenda, they said, no, you can't take our land. So they had fought back.
Okay. Okay, so now there's plenty of more to talk about. I have a lot of quotes, and I just, it's we almost going on 2 hours, so I'm just going to end it unless you want to. What do you want to end with? And then if anybody else have a ending question or quote, we'll do that. So
Okay.
Let me go to the panel, and then I'm gonna go to you to end it off. So anybody from the panel, is there a question or a comment before we leave this evening? Okay, so go ahead, Calvin.
Okay, I want to leave with this. Intelligence ends where spirituality begins. Remember this. Because the more spiritual we are, the better shape we're in, the more powerful we are, because their arms are too short to box with God. Now, okay.
So that's it?
Yes.
Okay, well, I appreciate you, man. Really do. And we're going to get more into more concepts that you have in the book and quotes. And I appreciate everybody that came this evening. And each one teach one. So now, next week, we have Brother Peter Rogers. And his topic is twice as hard ain't cutting it. Twice as hard ain't cutting it. And this will be his second appearance. So each one teach one. I'm gonna tell everybody good night. And Brother Moore, he skipped out for a second here. We're gonna see him next time. And hopefully he can visit the Conscious Corner. And a matter of fact, Professor Amaral, you want to speak a little bit about Monday's show before we leave?
Yeah, we're going to discuss education in our community, you know, the challenges of public education, as well as the challenges that many African American parents have with regards to the choice of private school, charter school, or some other type of arrangement other than education in their community. And you know what are we're gonna have Principal Ra, that's my son, who's the principal of a school called Pathways for LA Unified, and hopefully Mr. Historian Hendrick will have some educators on, and we're going to discuss, you know, what are our alternatives when many of the public schools we have are not doing what many of our parents and people think that they should be doing. And what are the challenges of educating our people with regards to their community, you know, the failures is, if there are failures in public schools, why? And how do we correct them? And what are the challenges? Yeah.
All
So
right.
that'll be Monday.
Monday, the 28th of June. Okay, well, each one teach one. Good night, everybody.
Good night.